I'm so happy to meet with all of you for this, very casual community gathering where we discuss perhaps some clues that this fern right here, this is Kihi Fern, Adenophorus Periens, what it is revealing about our current time on this planet. I'll go over some of the details of what that could be, and then we'll love to open this up for anyone and everyone to share what you remember about the code to which this fern is sharing about our current time. I have with us two people that I just feel have such rich information when it comes to quantum leaps, cataclysms, some of the biological transformations and mutations that's happening within the human body. We have Sabine Mead, Aloha sister, and we have Melanie Gillespie, Aloha sister. So glad to have both of you, and we'll receive some of their transmissions of what the unique qualities of our current time could be. So first, I do want to just share a little bit about Kihi Fern and maybe even just fern medicine in general. So, in my lineage, which spans 20,000 years, we have a prehistoric medicine called Pua'aehuehu, and that's fern medicine. And in fern medicine, there are 103 native Hawaiian ferns that correlate to 103 human emotions. Coded within the spores of the ferns are the preservation of human emotions, which is so incredibly important because for you and I as human beings, that's really our electrical, I would say, hub is our emotions. It's you and I as the beings of voltage to which we are. And so our emotional experience here as human beings is so incredibly critical in how we perceive and contribute to this world. And so ferns safeguarded these emotions and reveal, I would say, the truest or the most honest quality of these emotions. And Kihi happens to represent and hold the codes of the emotion of pandemonium. So pandemonium is a more like modern translation of what this energy is. A lot of the qualities that the ferns reveal, it would be really difficult to translate into English. The best word that we could come to for the energy of this fern and the emotion is pandemonium. So the other word for pandemonium is quantum leaps. A quantum leap is a sudden, dramatic, irreversible shift. I want to emphasize that last word, irreversible shift. It's where we can not return to what we were before. A sudden, dramatic, irreversible shift is a quantum leap. And one unique thing about Kihi Fern is, according to modern scientists and botanists for very long, this was considered extinct. They thought this fern was extinct. But that makes sense to me because perhaps humanity, we were not experiencing a quantum leap. And so it was in a kind of dormancy. Now that it's beginning to show up, uh, is already revealing to us that we are in the time of Kihi Fern, which means we are in a time of a quantum leap. The word Kihi, this is a prehistoric word, by the way. This is not a modern name for this fern. This is a prehistoric name. Kihi means to propel the world. And we can already feel how that correlates so beautifully with quantum leaps. It's to propel something, it's an irreversible upgrade. We cannot return to that which was before, to propel the world. It also means, in modern Hawaiian, jagged or sharp edges. And the actual body of Kihi, you can see that it has this. It's a single divided fern, which means it doesn't stem from like a frond. It's single divided. And on its blade, it's like rows of triangles. And so even that name, sharp edges, could correlate to the actual physical structure of this fern as well. But what I want to focus on is its modern name, which would be its scientific name. And its modern name is likely that to which is revealing what the quantum leap is. If we can translate its modern name, we will have an idea of what we're dealing with in this current quantum leap, which will likely result in a kind of cataclysm. So Adenophorus Periens is the scientific or modern name of Kihi. Now, let's break that word up and let's translate what that means. Adenophorus means glands, okay? Glands. Periens means to perish or to end. Its scientific name means the end of the glands, which likely says that our current quantum leap and a potential cataclysm has something to do with the end or the perishing of the glands. So if you're on this call right now, it's likely because you've read a little bit about what I've been sharing about my own translation of what that could mean, the end of the glands. Of course, the human body within the endocrine system, we have all these wonderful glands. You know, one really, really unique thing about the glands, and I was just sharing this with Sabine, is that the glands are what secrete liquids within our body. We can even feel that the glands are secreting light that has been transformed into liquid that can now alchemize our body. It's the transference of light in a biological form that then augments our physical body. That's part of the endocrine system and the glands. But the glands that were uniquely stood out for me, and of course I want to hear from all of you as well, right? And we'll hear from Sabine and from Melanie as well. But the glands that stood out for me are the gonads. The gonads is the ovaries within gendered women and the testes with gendered men. Okay, when I felt into, oh, that's interesting, the end of the gonads, I of course arrived at the end of fertility. The end of fertility, which could be a cataclysm for you and I as organic human beings. I often wonder about people's just general translation of a cataclysm, because when I have just these, conversations with people and we talk about cataclysms, a lot of people, there's this idea that there needs to be a flood or a supervolcano or an asteroid, and those are the only things that qualify a cataclysm. But a loss of fertility is also a cataclysm. Transhumanism is a cataclysm. And it's problematic when you and I, as organic human beings, we're looking for that asteroid to hit. We're looking for the supervolcano to erupt while we are not even aware that the cataclysm is happening right now. And translating the modern name of Kihi, which is a code of what is likely our current quantum leap and a potential cataclysm, it reveals the end of the glands. Of course, we have pituitary, pineal. We have where's some of the thymus, right? The adrenals. We have all these glands, and they're all secreting these fluids, right? These hormones, these liquids that are light that has been transformed into a biological matter. So we have all these glands and all these secretions that are happening. But for me personally, the one that stood out is the gonads. Something to do with fertility. there's a compromise in fertility. For some of you, you may have something else that's coming through for you when it comes to what glands are potentially right now being disrupted or being shut down altogether. On the flip of this, because I don't want to only be doom and gloom, right? On the flip of this, we can even feel that are we mutating into crystalline?
Mhm.
Because the secretion of the glands is something very unique to carbon-based bodies. We're carbon-based, sure. It's very unique to carbon-based bodies. Does that not correlate or relate to crystalline body? We also have to feel into the glands and the gonads about the male and female reproductive systems. Are we returning to androgynous beings? Is that the quantum leap? Right? And so there's different angles that you and I can feel into what is actually happening right now. And that's why I feel like this conversation is super important for us to just begin to share notes. And so in the what's the way to describe that? In the jubilation of sharing notes, I would love to bring on Sabine. Yeah, the end of the glands. Kihi Fern. What have you received from Kihi and would like to share?
Well, hello everyone. I have spent a lot of time being a somatic educator and continuum teacher, just going about understanding myself through the body. So, in Lahui language, that would be I'm on team love the body. And, most of our anatomy and understanding about what this body is based on a body that's not living. So, to go into your own felt sense experience and your own embodied awareness and to really cultivate that through felt sensation, through breathing, through your attention is a whole different way to understand who and what you are. Um, and for me, the glands represent our like most ancient and primal system. It's a vibrational system. Keone was saying it's electrical. So it is about this extremely early subtle energy that came online in our evolutionary path or architecture to create equilibrium in the system, to create balance and harmony between all of these different um, structures and functions that make a body what it is or make a human what it is. And really, probably the most popular way to understand the glands is as centers of awareness, because the Vedic and the Hindus cultivated the chakra system, and they're all based on the glands, these kind of seven very powerful glands running down the midline of the body. So, um, there's a lot more to our glands because they're in a dynamic relationship both with the nervous system through what Keone was just talking about, the secretion of different fluids. So that's a lot about mineral titration. And, this is a very sophisticated organism, super sophisticated. And so different parts of the body, different organs need different kinds of minerals. And, we get a lot of distortion and problems and disease when we don't have those minerals in proper balance and harmony. So this really speaks to the need for equilibrium. And those secretions of fluid are hormones, and they're in very tiny doses. They're very homeopathic. They're very potent and they're very powerful. So part of what the glands do through these very powerful fluids is that they hold us in time. And um, meaning like the thymus gland on a baby, which is right here at the base of the throat, is huge because this is all about immune function. And as that infant arrives in this crazy world with all of these different things to navigate, then that thymus gland over time gets smaller. Then we have the gonads that come online in puberty. and drive us crazy, basically. And then at some, several decades later, or perhaps many decades later, they start to go offline. And then you're like, who am I? I don't even know who I am now. So there's, they're very powerful. um, and they have this quality that's kind of expressive of this wild, feral, animate aspect of all of us. Like hormones literally make us feral and wild at times. Think of adrenaline. Think of when you have that surge of terror, if you've ever felt that in your life, and what that feels like in your body, or that surge of desire. And, like uncontrollable, like it's your brain goes offline. You have no rational capacity anymore. You're just full of this, powerful, potent chemical that's spreading throughout your nervous system and sending you into some kind of action. So, um, there are relationships, and this is really based on the work of another incredible somatic in our um, educator in our time, which is Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen. And she is also someone who, being a somatic, goes into the body and explores. And she's come up with different, more than just the glands that we acknowledge in our Western culture. And for instance, she has contacted or felt into glands that live at the base of the tailbone, right there at the huelo. And she calls these coccygeal bodies. And those glands actually have to do with keeping your pelvis open, your thigh sockets open, rooting you into the ground, going down into the feet and letting your feet really connect to the earth, and then also balancing the pineal, the pituitary, and also the mammillary bodies that are in the head. So the coccygeal bodies balance the head glands. So there's these incredible relationships in the body between glands, and Keone brought up the gonads and fertility. So in Bonnie's work, she marries the gonads with the thyroid, the throat chakra. So if you don't have your own voice, if you don't have an open throat, then it's really hard to have an open, let's just say, an open gonad relationship. And so when I think about the end of the glands, um, and I think about how they're orienting us in time in terms of the arc of our life, bringing us rather than a linear orientation into that spiral, into that alpha omega point where we are born and then we come around and we come into death. The end of glands is kind of, for me, this powerful query, inquiry around our relationship to death, our relationship to the spiral of life. I mean, we have in the West been deeply, deeply indoctrinated into this linear timeline. And, you're born, you live, you die, that's it, bada boom, bada bop. And so if we can really wrap or get more three-dimensional in our consciousness and come into this idea that death leads into a birth, that perhaps part of what this ending or perishing has to do with is really shifting us into an understanding that we cycle through, and that, light doesn't die, it just changes form. I also feel like glands are the place where the spirit really innervates in the body. When I go into my felt sense of my glands, uh, that is where I feel like this quivering of voltage starts to move through my body and into my nervous system. And part of what the glands do is they're in a balanced relationship, a dynamic balanced relationship with the organs. And each organ, the organ is like the organs in your belly are like your Aquarian community. Everybody is distinct. They all have a job, but they have to get along and they have to work together. And when somebody decides to revolt and not, go off on their own or whatever, the whole thing is messed up. So glands are really working with the organs, which are processing not only what you eat, but what you actually experience every single day. Your organs in your abdomen are literally metabolizing your experience, and they're metabolizing your emotions. So if you go into the Chinese system, they're going to have a very complex orientation to this. The Vedic system has another complex orientation to this. But we all know this because when we feel emotions, we're down in our gut, like, ooh. And we're trying to discern, we're trying to get our brain to understand what that emotion is. And meanwhile, the glands are like, what do we have to do here to create equilibrium so that we don't just throw ourselves off this cliff right now, even though we just got delivered some seriously bad news? So it feels to me like there's a kind of quantum leap in our relationship to time happening. Um, and how, you know, we are coming out of, I mean, Keone talked about this back in the Lyra class. We're coming out of a paradigm of polarity, of duality into paradox. And it really takes a different kind of brain to orient in paradox and hold the both and. It requires a bigger consciousness. So for me, if I'm contemplate, I now have to really be able to grok paradox and hold the whole within my consciousness. Then my glands are going to really have to reorient to support me in that process. And this does feel like a whole different concentration of light that's impacting the shift between carbon and crystalline to me. Um, and I feel in my own body like I don't need to eat as much food, that I am at the place in my life where I need to eat more light. So being in the sunlight, really consciously bringing light into my body, this idea of bioluminescence being down in the ocean, that's in our bodies. That's right here in you. You are actually bioluminescent in your cells. You have more light in one mitochondria, 10,000 times the light of the sun. So basically, what a body is concentrated light. And I think these little powerful, potent glands and hormones in the glands are these conversations between light and mineral to maintain coherence and establish the body in equilibrium. And it's always in a fluid flux and change. And I'll close by just saying I feel like the synthetic electrical grid that humanity has placed on top of this planet is really messing with our glands. And if we don't change how we're is having devastating consequences on all of our endocrine system. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Thank you so much for sharing. And like an assessment just for me personally in receiving you and so many wonderful things that you shared and so many enlightening things too. It's really an opportunity for us to truly redefine what our relationship with light is in general. And one of the ways to which we experience light, and then also in how the glands excrete light as a biochemical thing
Mhm.
that then is the composition of us. We seem to be redefining our relationship with light. And, in one aspect, right, it's the mutation of light, which could be in this crystalline form. Yes, that would be so beautiful too. But then also, how is the light being distracted from impacting us properly? Right? With transhumanism, it's as if there's something that's now shielding us, like there's a net around us, right? Our agency has been disrupted, and the light cannot penetrate that. Now we cannot engage with the light properly.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that there's been a lot of very intentional disruption and interference with this particular confluence of time where the solar system and the sun in particular is moving through the galactic current sheets, and we are receiving extra potent light codes from the center of the galaxy and from the sun, and perhaps particular other stars. Um, and there seems to be a desire from certain forces on the planet that don't want us to receive these codes. So, what do we do? I think that is really the question. And like I said, the synthetic electrical grid, the satellites in the sky, the electrical grids, everything that we have become so habituated to, we really have to question this relationship we have with the electrical world. And I think it's very threatening to our sense of connection with each other because we have now gotten very comfortable. This whole thing you have, Keone, around we sacrifice comfort for truth. So to really orient and look at the truth of our relationship with the synthetic electricity as opposed to trusting our own electrical ability, i.e., telepathy, coming back into community where we can really feel the resonance with each other and not solely depend or upgrade this technology that we're currently using so it's not harmful to the electrical, the bioelectric, right? So
Mhm.
that, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and friends, just to share in my own experience, part of the promise of transhumanism is comfort. And so if on a day-to-day basis, that's your goal, every day is just to be comfortable, that is also you consenting to this rise in transhumanism. And the complexity and oftentimes discomfort of our natural electrical experience is also in the way to which we experience our emotions. Sometimes it's tough. It's rough to feel the waves of our emotions, but that's natural light. That's natural cosmic light that's running through us. Another promise of the transhumanism is to dim us, to dull us, because some of us prefer that, right? That's why we take all these benzodiazepines and all these other psychotropic drugs to dull us. And people are consensually wanting to do that. There's no difference with us preventing the light from moving through us because the stimulation of that is just for whatever reason, it's too uncomfortable. And so, like, what our sister is sharing is like, can you remain present with the intensity of the electrical experiences that we're having on a very natural level and, and inviting that to continue? Because with the code that I've been getting with transhumanism, the end of the gonads and fertility is out of a sense of necessity because the most primal thing that you and I may agree on as human beings is that we must replicate. We must replicate. If fertility is extinguished somehow, then we're going to find other ways to replicate. And then thus that births a very different kind of human. I don't even think it could be called human at that point anymore, although there might be quite a lot of similarities. But the magic that happens within the body, especially with a lot of what Sabine is sharing, it will likely not be compatible for that anymore. And that is cataclysmic for you and I as organic human beings. Sabine, thank you so much, my sister. This has been so enlightening. And Sabine, in the comments, if you could share once again your contact information, because I know a lot of people are super curious about you and perhaps even the continued dialogue. You guys, in the email that I shared, and even on my website, I do have a link for Sabine as well, if you would like to continue this conversation with her or even investigate some of her amazing work, somatic work. I would love to also give opportunity for my dear sister Melanie to share some of the insights that's coming in for you regarding Kihi Fern, our current quantum leap, and the end of the glands. Melanie, what is moving through you?
Hello. Well, it's great to be here. I've been feeling Kihi so much since you started sharing about pandemonium, which is a word that I actually deeply adore. So even though we have this kind of this sense of a newer translation. So I want to just like a couple of, for shared language purposes, share a little bit of how I experience and retrieve the very macro that we are engaged in. And, the many different, we're in many layers of sort of macro to micro, right? And some of those have been referred to already. So I speak of us as being in this cosmos, which includes this universe, but other universes as well. And this cosmos I experience as a living sentient being. And her essence is the deep sacred current of life force. And the web of life proliferates throughout the cosmos. And the reference earlier to this sort of this artificial electrical network that's interfering with our relationship to the light is part of an attempt to duplicate or recreate an artificial web of life. And so when you can understand it that way, it will make it easier to work with that aspect of things. I like to encourage all of us to engage with what I lovingly and jokingly refer to as the rainbow pill instead of, just the black pill or the red pill or whatever. The rainbow pill where we can come into more confidence with all of the different layers of reality that are occurring simultaneously here, that are in conflict with each other, often even paradoxical or contradictory to each other, and to not get overly burdened by any one particular layer of reality so that we can really come into the embodiment of what we truly came here in this life to be, and to experience that for ourselves, and from the overflow of that, contribute that out. This is one of the primary reasons that I adore Brother Keoni's work so, so much, because you can hear the very simpatico nature of these encouragements, right? And so, okay, so the cosmos, so then Earth, I'm very much here in this human life in support of Earth, who is a being, who is a sentient being. I experience all stars, planets, galaxies, galactic superstructures all have a sentient beingness to them, and a soul or spirit or an essence, whatever language that you want to use for that is fine. I don't have any dogma around any of that. The planet, I have many memories of her, including her initial creation, and also including 9 forms of cataclysm. And I have memory of when, if you will, sort of energetic, what's the word that I want to use? Sort of, I'm just going to go with energetic magic, for lack of a better word, was put into place to ensure that no further splitting or cataclysm of Earth, the soul of Earth, would occur. And this is primarily my function in this human life, has been to essentially be a physical anchor for that work, for that previously established work to hold. Okay, so that's useful from that perspective. For most of my own human life, I have not seen a pathway for humanity to continue on this planet. This created a lot of tension for me, only because, and that felt correct and fair, as Keoni would say, but this created a lot of tension for me because I also was gifted with the experience of motherhood and have a child who is now a 25-year-old adult. And, sort of that tension of but what's going to happen to her, right? Like the attachments that we have. So I've stayed open to investigation through her 25 years so far on this planet to, is there a pathway? And I later came to understand that one of the many different reasons for us coming into relationship as mother-daughter at this time was to keep me connected to that idea instead of only holding the idea that humanity ends. And then a number of years ago, what I felt open up was this opportunity for an evolutionary leap for humanity as a species out of Homo sapiens and into what I received as being called Homo Lumens. You can use whatever you want for the language. And that this Homo Lumens evolutionary leap is the form of humanity that can continue with Earth. And so Earth is moving through her own evolutionary journey. And she has been doing that since the beginning, as all beings do, since her beginning within this cosmos. And she's moving through now this incredible kind of lightening and distilling and shedding and clarifying of herself from very dense experiences that she's had. And in that journey, all the beings that are within her, as humans are, must either calibrate to a resonant frequency that works with her, that matches with her, or they cannot continue. There's a kind of a story that's often told in spiritual communities that Earth is splitting into two. This is completely incorrect, completely wildly inaccurate. It's an old story, and I understand where it comes from, but don't hold this story up anymore, would be my message to you from Earth. And to instead understand she's going on a beautiful journey. And if we would like to go with her, we can do that through the deep devotion internally to our own beautiful journey and to our own clarifying away, like pushing away, pulling off, clarifying internally that full embodiment of our own essence here in this particular life. And this shift into Homo Lumens is marked by, Sabine referenced bioluminescence earlier, a radical increase for human physical beings in both their own photosynthesis, which does exist if you understand about human biology, and bioluminescence. So both of these radically increase. So this desire to essentially eat light that I think Sabine was referencing earlier is exactly part of this, right? Now, everyone needs to feel into their own what they want to eat at this time to support their body. Please don't allow anybody to give you dogma around, oh, this diet type is the only kind, this diet type is the only kind. Like, Earth does not want this for you. You are encouraged to do what's right for your own body at any given point in time. And you may be feeling a very intense call towards, I want to strengthen my body at this time, whatever that means to you based on wherever you're at. And this is your mitochondria speaking to you. The mitochondria I feel very much as the God spark, and there's a long, beautiful history of the way two different, if you will, life forms joined together to create the mitochondria. The mitochondria was not originally of the core microorganism that existed on Earth. And this God spark comes together and joins in and creates this sort of new form, which we have trillions and trillions and trillions of in our bodies. And as Sabine accurately referenced earlier, each one of these trillions and trillions and trillions of mitochondria are producing so much more light than the sun, proportionally speaking, that it is just amazing, right? To just take a moment and realize or remember that you are a massive star field, that you contain as many stars inside your body as exist out throughout the cosmos. And you are powered by these. And this kind of micro macro fractalization is a useful, important thing to tie into, to kind of tune into and to feel into. So this process that the species is moving through, and we're in the early stages of this evolutionary leap, let's be really clear, and it is very much a quantum leap, and I don't think there's just one quantum leap that occurs for the process to complete. I think there will be multiple along the way, but this one that we're feeling now, that we're all feeling and we're called into now with Keii and Pandemonium and the end of the Glands, it's this absolute liquefaction, like the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and is just completely dissolved. We're experiencing this this dissolution within our individual selves, and we're seeing it externally play out as well. Old energetic architecture that has held certain structures in place for how humans function on the planet have been removed. And so these structures are falling as well. And it's kind of like if you pull the tent poles out of a tent, it's sort of like, oh, it starts to kind of collapse, and it may initially appear to still be there, but there's nothing holding it up anymore. So the early builders of a new society for humans to continue on Earth in a society that is actually for all and not just for few, they're feeling that call in their hearts right now. And some are starting to actually do the building. But I would tell this group that the being is the building. It is the most important part. The being is the building. You being your essence in your body more and more and more and more, and allowing that spiral to keep on opening and blooming and unfurling within you. That's it. Like, that's the whole game. And it's why I feel Keoni's work is so important at this time. And it's been an absolute pleasure and a delight for me to be able to kind of journey with him from his last ALOHA MΑ Congress and through essentially, basically, if Keoni puts it out there, I'm coming. And I don't listen to or take in, and this has been an inner guidance my entire life, any other mystical or spiritual thinking. I don't. I'm very clear about it, but his just tracks so closely to my own experiences. And it's such a delight to be able to lean back and just receive another perspective that feels really coherent and clear. And I'm sure some of you know what I mean when I'm speaking about that. So I want to also talk for a minute about the design of this cosmos. The design and the function of this cosmos is, as I experience it, differentiated communion. And I'm going to, and this is really important actually to some of what's going on at this time. This idea of differentiated communion, what does that even mean? How is that possible? And it's this kind of, if we can come, all of us, humans, other beings, stars, galaxies, whatever you want to, like, other beings that exist, it doesn't matter. If we can all come into the clear embodiment or the clear access and expression of what our core essence is, our unique essence, which is like a prism that is uniquely designed through which that source light and that life force light shines through, creating a kind of a constellation of light that cannot exist anywhere else in the cosmos except for your unique prism, then the more we can purely become that to which we are, then we can come into a place of connection and communion with others who are also able to do this differentiation. And the communion functions accurately only when we are in that differentiation, when we understand the me, not me. What's me, what's not me. Telepathy does not work and cannot come online for us as a species until we're able to do this. And you see this very broadly everywhere with people who experience themselves as so-called empaths, where they can't tell the difference between what they're feeling and what somebody else is feeling or the collective is feeling. This is a very natural phenomenon to be very common at this time because of the push towards some of these new elements for the evolutionary leap. The Evo leap is what I call it shorthand. And I want to just point briefly to like a physics point for any of you sort of fellow nerds out there. If you think about the Pauli exclusion principle, which in very short defines that, expresses that a wide array of certain kinds of particles like electrons and protons and neutrons and quarks and neutrinos, they cannot occupy the same space. So this is in quantum physics. They cannot occupy the same space. And so those of you follow, I'm sure you follow Brother's stories on Instagram, and you have come to some of his teachings. And one of the things that he speaks about routinely is this: I am me, uniquely me, and nobody can be me, and stop trying to imitate everybody. And this kind of assimilation culture, and really appreciated his more recent speaking into the misunderstanding of like unity consciousness, where it's this sort of idea of assimilation that everybody just becomes one. And it's like, no, we all have the one, if you will, the God spark, the source, God, divinity, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. We all have that within us and we all come from it. But we're here in this cosmos to become this differentiated, unique thing. And there cannot be any overlap. There cannot be any you occupy my space, I occupy your space. And, in his teachings around the kind of like, being in competition or being in subordination or superiority, I think these are, if I'm remembering correctly, the languaging that he uses for it. And in some other places, we may think about the idea of like neutrality and a kind of like, are we in a one up or one down judgment towards others versus like we are in our own neutrality where we're confident and comfortable with what and who we are. For that to occur, we have to really be in our center. We have to have comfort and access and embodiment of our center, and our centeredness is something that cannot be moved based on whatever we perceive external conditions to be. And this is where this differentiated communion can really occur. So Homo lumens, I want to say also about Homo lumens, it's interesting. I'm very aware of this trend around the idea that we are moving from carbon-based beings to crystalline-based beings. And I have to say that I'm curious to see anybody, because I've yet to find anybody actually explain what would a crystalline-based being really look like to you. And I'd be interested to hear if anybody here today wants to speak to that, but I don't really feel it that way. We are already crystalline beings. Our bodies are very much made of crystalline matrices. Like it's already documented in the body in a variety of different ways. And I feel more clearly the evolutionary shift as being related to our waters. I know that the call within Earth, for as long as I have known her, has been that her waters will be free. And I've shared this many times over many years with, my public sharing of things. The waters will be free, and the waters will be free, meaning the waters will be clear, the waters will flow freely, the waters will move as they are to move. And this is not just true in the external bodies of water that we see on the planet or that we are not yet aware of that exist within the planet, but will become more available in future times as appropriate to Earth's process, but within our bodies. 99% of the molecules in your body are water molecules. Water is a uniquely interesting singular sentient energy that is fractalized out into these many, 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 many different molecules that is a key part of this story in ways that are very hard for me to articulate accurately with words, right? Like this is where the telepathy would really come in handy, because then we could just like, right? Hopefully you're picking up some of it. But this piece about the water is very interesting. I do feel that the water-based organic is the pathway that threads the needle for humanity to stay with Earth, to continue on with Earth. And I do very much feel in my macro work over recent years that, not just that Earth's work around kind of shifting and consolidating timelines for herself to keep moving in a way that our human language might be saying like is positive or lighter, lightening, removing density, moving forward in a beautiful way in her soul journey, but that also that this pathway as sort of narrow and very much that eye of the needle feeling for humanity as a species, that pathway continues to strengthen. How many of the 8 billion humans move forward? I don't know. I see different futures on Earth. And I am very clear that it is never my role to say, this is the thing that will occur, because this limits possibility, right? And this brings us back to my last point. I'm going to come back to beautiful Kihi, to Pandemonium, to quantum leap, to the infinite quantum, that this is of course why she's emerged again at this time, to allow the entire infinite quantum to be more visibly available to all of us here, and the kind of like, stew, the kind of like mixing together, the swirling together, the chaotic, beautiful chaos, pandemonium of like, it's all here. Everything from the infinite quantum that is, what has constructed this cosmos, it's all available now. And it's all available for each one of us. And I don't just mean the humans, right? Like for all of us to come into right relationship to ourselves and to others. And the kind of the thread for me throughout my whole human life has been this concept of the me and the we. Like, how do we get the me and the we in the right potency, each individually, and then combined together to create, it creates this third thing with the E, which we could reductively say the everyone. And this me and we into this third thing is where we're going. It's a very beautiful thing to me. The last thing that I'm sorry, I said I was going to say the last thing, but I can't leave this off. This journey of the human individual and the human as a species into Homo lumens is also marked by the transition and the transformation within each of us into the cosmic child. And this is available now. So be working with this if it calls you. And so the cosmic child comes into availability to us when we come fully into connection and communion with, if you will, the inner divine masculine, the inner divine feminine, or in the beautiful Kionis speak, the Uhane and the Unhipili. And the cosmic child comes from the work of distilling down the wisdom of all of the lived experience, and then combining that with the choice to live from the purity of innocence. And this combination I call wise innocence. This is where the whole cosmic spiral, because the cosmos is made of spheres and spheres within spheres, and then these spheres kind of unfurl for creation as creation occurs, and they unfurl into spirals is how I experience it. And that Trinity spirals is how all of this stuff works. And so this beautiful new cosmic spiral that opened in my memory of December 2nd, 2022, is the cosmic spiral for the experience, the cosmos to have the experience of wise innocence. And the cosmic child is the human version of that, is the human opportunity to embody that. And so I hope that that is something that you will find interesting and fun and choose to be in devotion to in some way, because it feels very potently important for where humanity is going. And as we say no to the transhumanism agenda and say no to this hijacking and attempted duplication of the web of life, there will be no effective hijacking of the web of life. But that doesn't mean that humanity may not fall prey to the attempts that have been well underway, and that in many ways on that layer of reality are prevalent throughout the planet, not just externally to us, but actually in our own bodies through the nanobiotechnology that has been proliferated out. So just keep on cleaning, keep on clearing. Don't get too into the doom and gloom on this. I feel strongly it's important to focus on what I've been speaking about up until now. So yes, so the caterpillar dissolves, the end of the glands and the liquefaction, a new form of life comes forward as humanity moves from Homo sapiens into Homo lumens. And it's also very much like the dragonfly nymph to me, the story of the dragonfly nymph, which lives its life under the water and breathes and lives underwater, and then someday has the most crazy drive that it cannot resist to move above the waterline, which is certain death, to move above the waterline, where it finds to its amazement that it can actually now breathe the air, and it is now starting a new life experience that is out in the air with direct exposure to the sunlight instead of mitigated through the waterline. So let's do that. That's what I'm here for. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Yeah. Melanie, we are so grateful to you, sister. Thank you so much. Homo lumens. And I love this piece on, the poly exclusion. To just summarize it, and so much of what you're sharing, it's like choose you. Here's the thing, like in every story, in every blockbuster movie, the theme is to be the chosen one, which tells us that's what we're starving for.
Yeah.
You all want to be the chosen one. Choose yourself.
Oh my God, I love that you're saying this.
Oh.
Barrett and I used to joke about this because I would talk about like this chosen one thing, and he would, and how, everybody is chosen. And he was like, yeah, but then also you kind of just want to be a little bit more chosen-y. I like it, right? Totally. It's very real. Like we want, like you are the chosen one.
Yeah.
Everybody is.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the path of acknowledging our divinity.
Mm-hmm.
When you choose yourself, you select your divinity, and it's that to which all of the chemical composition within your body, specifically the secretions of those glands, which is light that is made biochemical within the body, you have access now. We don't need machines to do the things that we can extract from the miracle that is the organic human that belongs on earth. We belong.
Also,
We
Earth wants to be
belong.
seen and be chosen, just like you want to be seen and be chosen. She wants to be seen for what she is. She's an opulent, lush paradise. She is an incredible creator. Like, please honor her by seeing her instead of being in this weird devastation story. Like, no, don't hold that anymore. Go be with her. Go be in the amazing creation that she is and share that with everyone. Get everyone excited about the beautiful, amazing experience that Earth is instead of whatever this kind of slavish devotion that we've all been programmed into around the destruction. Like, no more energy to that. You're only feeding the transhumanism agenda when you do that, which isn't to say that you ignore incorrect actions out there in the world when it's your role, correctly your role, to take part in the fixing of that. But yeah, I could go on that for days.
But you
Sorry.
know, Melanie, for me, it was what happened when I came into my own divinity, which is just another way of saying I chose myself. And I'm like, ooh, wow, this is fun. This is interesting.
Yeah.
The world became friendly.
Yes.
The earth became friendly. You
Yes.
know, I want to engage. I want to resource the earth as much as it resources me. I
Yeah.
feel that equal measure, and thus I come into my own perspective of something unity consciousness, which has nothing to do with assimilation. And also, Melanie, before we open this up to everyone else, you just unloaded some really amazing data information. Melanie also has an amazing podcast, you guys. And Melanie, in the comments, could you please link ways that people can, you know, continue to receive a lot of, you know, what's just brewing in your own divinity, and so generously you share that with all of us. So grateful.
I
Um,
will. Thank you.
thank you, mahalo nui. For me, and it was so beautiful too that so many people in the comments, you know, noticed that you were answering your own question about crystalline body. But yeah, but you know, for me, crystalline means that the oscillation to which we are experiencing on an alchemical and biological level, it's so quick that we become lighter.
Yeah.
And we reunite it with our buoyancy and levitation. And so it's just the cells
But
of
why is that called crystalline then? Why is that the name for it? I know I'm being like dumb in semantics, but
no, not at all,
I care a lot
sister.
about words, so I'm curious.
Yeah. Feel it like this
I
carbon.
do. I totally agree with that. I feel that too. Sorry to interrupt. Please go ahead.
Carbon is dense, and so it's slower. Crystalline, its oscillation is very rapid. And
Right.
that's what qualifies it as crystalline. Anything is crystalline, it's rapid. It's
Yeah.
so rapid that it even begins to bend time. And you
Yeah.
know, next month I'm going to go into the four-part series about light. Yeah,
Right.
I'm so glad that we're kind of, this is like a
That's
primer.
that's going to be really
Yeah, it's
fun.
a
Well,
primer.
and I think and you know, time is a sphere, and and so it unfurls and opens into spirals for linearity, but that's sort of like how tight or long or how like whoop is the, you know, how much back and forward movement, the before, the during, the after, like when we can come into right relationship to all of those positions, if you will, along the spiral of time that's moved out, like it shifts. So I really appreciate what you just shared because that really helped me understand better what could be behind this use of the language of crystalline. I really needed that. So thank you so much for that.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I've been very baffled by this language choice. I've been like, we're already crystalline. Like what?
Right, right. And you know, and that's that I would say that's completely accurate too. I feel like what you're touching on is the trends that surround it. And
Yeah,
you know, a lot of the things that have a deep truth, they become in a way corrupted because of they're pulled into trends. And then people have this relationship of disbelief when it comes to the trends when it is actually something incredibly fundamental and has a lot of power to it.
yeah.
Um, I see that we have people in the waiting room, and we would so love to hear from you about And I, want to just reorient all of us. We're here because we're honoring Kihi, who has showed up. This is a fern of quantum leaps. And the fact that Kihi is showing up saying we are in a quantum leap right now. And like Melanie was sharing, we're in the beginning stages. And it's giving us a clue. It's saying, okay, it has something to do with the end of the glands. So what does that mean? Is this an invitation for a reorientation? Is this a warning? Like, what exactly is it wanting to share with us? Layla, aloha sister, in honor of Kihi and the end of the glands, what mana'o do you have?
Aloha, everyone. Thank you, Brother Keone. Thank you, Sabine and Melanie. It's really refreshing to hear your perspectives. This is a really exciting time. This fern is very appropriate, and it's making me tingle all over. I'm just excited to share my embodied experience about this event. The word when you use jubilation, it's kind of how I feel lately. I feel in this state of jubilation because it's so the veils are dropping, right? Everything is dropping, and so it's right there. It's all very, very accessible. I want to talk about what your perspective, Brother Keone, about the end of fertility. That is a big deal, and that has really resonated with me on my personal journey. In short, I haven't had moon cycles for 5-6 years, and I've known that that's been okay. And now I'm creating life in my womb all of a sudden. And so it's been an interesting journey, surrendering to the knowing that we are going into the crystalline phase, however, dropping the hormonal aspect of it. So as a mother growing something in my womb, this has been a really interesting journey. And I do believe that what it's really asking for us is to have full immaculate trust that it's going to be okay, that this is the space that we're moving into, and at the end this is the release of total attachment. Like, this is what it comes down to for me, is because I don't really know this, where I'm headed with this, but I know that as I become lighter and more buoyant and release things that are endocrine disruptors, right? Because we touched about a lot of the stuff that's been implanted that we have to transcend. And one, I feel like it takes a lot of radical honesty to receive the medicine of the quantum leap. Like, you have to really, really dig in and see where there are things in your life or exposure or lifestyle that are endocrine disruptors, because they're everywhere. They've been implanted everywhere. So when you establish that relationship in radical honesty and with the pure intention of just absorbing the plasmic light, then you can make the quantum leap in quantum leaps, and that's been my experience. The more that I allow the releasing of things that I thought I needed for my body or for my life, then I become more buoyant and more easily access that buoyancy. So to me, the end of fertility is actually, it's like you said, it can be construed as positive and negative, but to me, it's just the necessary movement in the great juxtaposition that we're in. We are becoming androgynous beings. I completely feel androgynous, yet, and then there's creation happening in my womb. And so it's this complete trust of the journey. And I really love, Melanie, what you said about the differentiated communion. I think that's like the glory of this human existence, is that we get to all be uniquely ourselves. And we meet there in the sea of the unity. And it begins with you and me and all of us. And in that radical honesty where you really illuminate your higher self and bring your presence. I'm finding it's all about your presence, your highest presence, and anchoring that. So wherever you are, if you bring your highest presence, you will inadvertently, like inevitably, encode and activate others because they're already encoded as such. So it's like a free for all, honestly. It's easy, guys. It's easy. glory to just electrifying yourself and everyone else just by being you. You don't really have to try hard. And to me, like that's it's like the humanity slurp. That's what it feels like. And everybody does their part by holding down their presence, and we all slurp and ascend. And it's, there just can't be any fear of this new unprecedented place. That's the most important part. You have to dive into it, and unprecedented things sometimes are the best things, because it's just new and different. So that's kind of where I am in my journey, and I'm really looking forward to, as I'll share stuff with you as this goes on. But what I really feel like I'm doing is conceiving in an immaculate way, because I have to access that part of myself. Otherwise, this baby doesn't want to be here. So that's how it has to be. And there was one more thing. And Sister Kapuhinano, if you're here, you've touched upon the sacred secretions that we have in our lunar cycles every month, and mine has been the last 24 hours. And what I can safely say that I've been experiencing, knowing that it was coming, I opened myself to it. I have just been able to hold plasmic space and hold the paradox of whatever's happening around me, whether, people are whatever states of being, whether they're on drugs, it doesn't even matter. But it's holding the paradox as part of the experience and not let anything shake you. And so transhumanism, whatever, it doesn't matter, because if you access your quantum innate sense, you go beyond that. We shatter that. It's not even a thing. It doesn't exist. Right? And that's what we're being asked to do. So I think it's all really beautiful. And I'm just grateful to be here. And mahalo for receiving. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, mahalo. I'm reminded of the child who can withstand and even celebrate paradox, right? It's like when we birth that child within, we reunite with our own ability to engage with paradox. And I feel like paradox is a gateway to the levitation to which we can experience, and the densification that so many of us experience is because we're so threatened by that to which we cannot control. And that has turned into a collective density as well. So more to the buoyancy of the child within, that innocence, that natural curiosity, to not be so threatened when we engage with people who have differences, right? There will always be differences. That's part of what Melanie was sharing about as well. There will always be differences. The more and more that we attempt to challenge that, the more that we will begin to define unity consciousness as assimilation, which I do not consent to. I love you completely. ALOHA MΑ. Christina, the end of the glands. Kihi Fern.
Hello, how are you? I just wanted to just talk about the crystals. Crystals require immense pressure and intense situations. So like eruptions, volcanic eruptions, like earthquakes, extremely hot weather and pressure. So like I think part of our comparison to being crystalline is that look at what it took for humanity to get here and all of the pressure we're under. It's not comfortable, this human experience, right? So the pearl has the grit, and it's the sand, it's the washing off, and then it grows because it's like an irritation, right? So it's like we have all these things that bombard us. I don't really have about anything to say about the glands, but I am a language, my background is languages. And so I always look up the words. And so pandemonium comes from Greek, and pan is all, and demon is in the word. So I think it was the 17th century that it was started to get used. And I just wanted to bring in some levity about it. Catalyst, kata, and cataclysmo. So kata, the prefix means down. Catalyst would be down and loosen. Cataclysma the prefix again, down, against, back, reversal, opposition. It's Greek. Klizma, I looked it up through Italian and Latin, and klizma actually means enema. So when you think about a cataclysm, it's actually quite funny. You're like, okay, the reversal, you're going back up. So like when you're talking about the glands and the internal part of the body, I'm not a scientific person, but we all have a body. And so it was kind of funny when I looked that up and I was like, oh my God, that is hilarious. Like when we think of cataclysms, we do think about like earthquakes and floods and like really terrible things, right? But when you think about it as like, okay, a process, like sometimes you just need an enema to flush things out. So I feel like this could be like a flushing out of all the things that we no longer need to carry forward. Like Keone always talk about like going into the next universe. So it's like as we're adapting and in our evolutionary process into androgyny or into becoming who we were meant to always be. So I just thought that was really funny about the prefixes. So catalyst, to circle back to what Melanie was saying, so kata means down and list means dissolution or to dissolve. And you mentioned that a few times, I think. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So thank you so much.
Mahalo, Christina. I love etymology. I love it. In Hawaiian culture, we have something called the ka'avale and the kauna, where our language is meant for us to do further investigation in every word. There's layers upon layers. That's why Hawaiian is such a poetic language. And with what you're sharing, Christina, I don't know if you all saw in the comments, but Lori also did some investigation on Periens, and one of the other translations of Periens is to leak. And so we can see the leaking of the glands, or just as you're sharing too, right? The purging of the glands. Maybe there's a mass eruption within the glands. Maybe that light is so gigantic that we're going to have this mass flushing. And that's part of our current quantum leap, which could be really interesting. I love you completely. Aloha ma. Zia. Hey, sis. Kihi.
Hi.
The end of the leaking of the gland.
Aloha ma. Thank you for this opportunity to share. So much of my notes on this is so similar to what Sabine and Melanie has already shared. And so I'm going to try not to repeat too much information that we've already touched upon, but see what I can contribute to the conversation. And when I feel into the reemergence of Kihi, I feel a paradox. I feel that it is both reflecting the forced extinction of glandular sovereignty through external attack and also the organic evolution beyond gland dependence into a soul-led embodiment. And for me, I feel the fern coming in with a whisper, not so much a warning, but also an invitation. And it feels that it's asking us, do you still want to be here in the body on this earth? And if so, the terms are changing. So it's time to reclaim your root, reclaim your organic biology, or perish in the artificial inversion. And for me, I feel this as a soul level question for all of us because the terms are changing and not everyone truly wants to be here in a body anymore, not fully. Many of us are disassociated, half present, surviving in loops, and disconnected from the earth. And so for me, it feels like a question. Are you still choosing embodiment? Are you here in full willingness to inhabit the now? Are you willing to anchor in this body on this earth, even as everything changes? And so it's an invitation to recommit or to not. And because the electromagnetic and the atmospheric fields of Earth are not the same, there's more radiation, there's more noise, there's more synthetic signal. We get to assess and reevaluate if we want to evolve with the Earth's light body's evolution, or if we don't want to be here anymore. Because I feel like we're entering a time where embodiment requires conscious crafting. We can't just autopilot it anymore. And so to stay in the body now with vitality, sovereignty, and soul cohesion, we must actively fortify the energetic body, rebuild intimacy with Earth's living codes, detox the synthetic overlays, not just physical, but also spiritually, and consciously root in place in the presence on the earth. So it feels like for me, Kihi is popping up after this time of extinction as a little post-it note from the earth saying to re-authenticate your presence. And so we get to decide if we choose to be here in this body, on this earth, and live in right relationship with it. And when I feel into the deeper meaning of Kihi, meaning the sharp point and the propulsion of the world, and how that plays in with the Atlantean cataclysm, from my memories, the Atlantean cataclysm was an attempt to elevate the entire planet's frequency in a single synchronized plasmic light body ignition. And although the intent was unity, it involved bypassing natural timelines and cycles. So it split the grid and fractured consciousness and led to a collapse. And so as we're entering this quantum leap, there's also the question of the pace in which we enter it into. Because the last experiment failed because light outpaced love. And the propulsion was too fast and was not rooted in coherence. And so I feel that's also part of the invitation right now to not repeat the cataclysm, is to also include Earth in the conversation, and our bodies being Earth. It's not to allow the quantum shift to happen too quickly that it fractures our endocrine system again. So it's like the glands must not perish through overload, distortion, or external interference. Instead, they must transmute into crystalline glands, be awakened through love, coherence, and earth connection, and open slowly to handle the increasing light without fracture. Thank you.
Leah, you're on fire, girl. Yes, yes. An invitation to re-authenticate. So the lease is up. The lease is up, and we're being asked, the terms have changed. It's time to re-authenticate. We can't be on autopilot anymore. How engaged are you in being a human being on this planet, in this experience? Whatever that experience is for you. For many of us, it's love, right? We have become so detached from that experience. It's like the terms have now changed. I love that you're sharing this. And I felt it too, Zia. It was like, it was a nudge. That Kihi was giving me a nudge. It's like, I'm popping up, I'm popping up, I'm popping up. And the way that you just said it, the terms are changing. That's how I feel it. It's saying the terms are changing. The lease is up, and now we have to renegotiate again. We need to re-authenticate your presence and your experience here. Such a beautiful way to put that, sister, and just a real practical way as well. And resonates totally with me and my experience too. Mahalo.
Thank you.
I love you
Mahalo.
completely. Brother Serge, brother, what would you like to share? Kihi Fern, brah.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm in the middle of my route, but I wanted to participate in this because I knew how powerful it would be. And it is. Wow, everybody here is so amazing. We're all expanding exponentially, every one of us, and I feel it because, I mean, you guys are saying some of the same stuff in my community in your own way. There's just a few little things like that I think need to be said, especially about glands, because the pineal gland is an actual technology. It has 7 layers. Those 7 layers of crystals that are in the pineal gland connect to each of the chakras, and the chakras is also a technology by the Atlanteans. So, and they're all meant to go. They're all meant to stop. We're meant to stop connecting to that because the pineal gland is going into the what they call the God matrix reality. That's what we call it. It's that reality, you call it the synthetic reality. That pineal gland is meant to keep you in that because there's a library. This Akashic Records is just a library, just like our libraries, and can be modified. And it's in their field. It's in the God matrix field. So we just need to stop externalizing our existence And that's externalizing our existence, because we need to internalize our own existence, and in internalizing our own existence, we have to internalize our existence with Earth. And reason and so many people said so many things like everything is beingness. Yes, absolutely, that is so true. But who is Earth? That's the key. That's the message nobody's saying. Earth is a fractal of the entire universe, and she is also the creator of this universe, embodied as a planet. So is the sun. The sun holds the entire light of the entire universe, and every star out there, and every galaxy. It pours all of its light into this. It's all going into the sun. A gentleman has actually seen this. He actually went outside of this, did a journey outside of this universe, and came back in and saw the sun and saw all the light from the entire universe shining into the sun. So this is his experience, and I agree with him. I mean, like I said, everything is about, we don't have to agree with each other. It's so true on that. But this is his experience, and it feels right. If it's just a masculine, at this time the sun is a masculine expression. Has been a feminine expression in the past, but it's a masculine expression. And I think it has to do with the Earth being a feminine expression at this moment. And then, this galaxy is also a fractal of the entire universe. So it's the same being who is the Earth and is the sun. And the Sirius star system is also that same being. And there's stories all around that. I mean, but here's the thing that because you said quantum leap, one of the things that Neve talks about is a way of when you leap, you need to have a foundation to land on, even before you even leap. And the foundation is a full acceptance of your reality as it is right now and who you are. That's what she calls the foundation. I think that is so powerful, because that way you leap and then you land, because you're landing in the top of your leap because the foundation that you made by accepting your reality. So all of this is so powerful. And then the Homo Luminous. We've been talking about Homo Luminous for 4 years. I mean, so you guys, I don't know if this is the first time you guys heard that, but so we've known that we're going to become Homo Luminous. In essence, Earth is going to change, and maybe it's because we're going to be fully shifting into beings that don't need. We don't even need to feed off light. We will be light. It's going to be a reality where there is no consumption of anything. So maybe that's why this is coming, because we won't need our glands. We won't need to reproduce, because we will. So yeah, can you still hear me?
You can still hear you, brother. Yeah, mahalo. Thank you.
Sure. A call's coming through, and I can talk later with her. But yeah, so this idea of a Homo Luminous is so powerful, because it is, Earth is going to change, and it's going to take a little time. Everything is a process, and she's so right. When I don't know who, one of the gals who was talked about the pregnant, having a baby and stuff, how things have their own time and place, or maybe it was another gal, but it wasn't just the time and place. It's the process needs to be gradual. That's why we can't just jump into this. And you could say that's how it happened in Atlantis that way, if you want to. I think it was all meant to happen like that, because we weren't full fractals yet. Maybe at that time, maybe we were in the process of becoming full fractals of the entire universe. That's who I believe we are, because as the primary species on this planet, we have entered into that responsibility of being the ultimate responsibility for this planet and everything on it. And since she's a fractal of the entire universe, we have become fractals of the entire universe. So every cell in our bodies is a galaxy. Every atom is a star. literally. So when they're splitting atoms and destroying them, they're destroying a star system out there. And that karma is going on the beings who are doing that. So they did that. People don't have any clue what they're doing. It gives you a totally new perspective on CERN and how diabolical it is, actually. So yeah, we have to stop, being so naive about certain things and open up and like I said, open our hearts. And I have a little different take. I think the universe is I've learned that everything in the universe is made up of love and knowledge. And if you take a child and ask them where does knowledge reside, they'll say the head. And if everything's love and knowledge, then the masculine is the knowledge and the love is the feminine. And then therefore the knowledge and I think the heart's the center point. I think the heart is the convergence of the love and the knowledge because it's in between them. So it is a different viewpoint than you, and I appreciate you showing me your ways and about Ohane and Unipihipili. I think everything is correct except for just that. I think it's just that difference to me. But I don't know if I don't know if that's right. It's just what feels right to me at this time. So, and I appreciate everything. Thank you so much for letting me share and this. They're so right. I mean, this fern showing up, it in and of itself showing up is a quantum leap because it's like it came out of nowhere because Earth decided to let it come out now.
Yeah, yeah. Mahalo, thank you for sharing, Serge. And, like a recap of some of the key points that Serge was sharing about, it's an invitation for us to internalize our existence here on this planet, right? And for those of you who have been in the Aloha Ma experience, one of the things that we begin to remember is that C7, the cervical vertebrae, is the exalted self. C7 is the code of involution. And so what Serge was sharing about, it's time to internalize our experience. That's what is happening within that C7. We're in that involution process, which of course would allow us to come into greater fluency of our own divinity, because now we have access to our own chemical composition. And so accessing our own divinity. And of course, the glands excreting very specific fluids, right? Which is actually just light turned into biochemical, something that's biochemical and accessible to us. Mahalo. I thank you so much, Serge, brother.
Say one more thing. Just
sure, go ahead,
briefly,
brother.
because
One more thing.
The group that I'm with, we talk about the seat of the soul is right where you're talking about, like right around C7 is the seat of our being, where we project ourselves into these bodies from our incarnation.
Oh, that would make perfect sense.
Which is like if you take a circle and put a cross on it, where does that in the body? That's going to be right there. It's right around C7. Maybe just below it or something, but right around there.
Yeah, that would make sense too, coming into that recognition of the body or the self, which is that involution aspect. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, brother. Serge.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that because it's totally. So thank you.
Yeah, Serge, I love you, brother. Pamela, sis. Ah, here you are, sis. What would you like to share? Kihi Fern. So, Pamela, you're on mute.
Okay. You hear me good? Yeah, oh, okay. Let me see what wants to be shared. So for me, like androgynous beings, I'm all about that. Couple of years ago when the they them pronouns became very emergent in the field, many people have asked me what do I feel I am, and I'm like, really? I feel like I'm an it. As a tree or as a light. Many people here have talked about the essence. We are essentially light that does not die. We are an unbroken thread of light that is shape-shifting, timeline to timeline, choice by choice, human body after human body. We're just shifting, but we're always omnipresent. That God spark, that light, that core essence is just always there. It never goes away. We just forget that it's alive in us in every moment. So that's what I wanted to say about androgynous beings and light. There seems to be a kind of a connection with something that I downloaded recently, which is on my Instagram, but I'll share a summarized version of it. I was in a Blue Lotus ceremony and I was shown how there is soon going to be a repopulation of the Blue Lotuses on the Nile River. And I was shown how the Milky Way maps onto it and how soon there will be more stars. There will be more Blue Lotuses in the Nile River than there are stars in the Milky Way, and how the Blue Lotuses are different from the ones before. The Blue Lotuses representing each one of us who makes the choice, or even each one of us in a conscious kind of soul pod. And the center of these Blue Lotuses are sparking with light, sparking with electricity, golden white, fully integrated diamond consciousness, Christ consciousness light. And each one of us, when we make that choice to become fully sovereign, fully coherent, and fully embodying our unique essence that's needed in this world, each one of us becomes that Blue Lotus on the Nile River in that collective snake, that collective dreaming of the new dream that we've always been able to birth from within us, right? And so that feels like a mapping. That download seems like a mapping of the conversation. And one of the things that was really resonant with something that Melanie said was, so I'm here now at Lake Atalan, Guatemala, and I work a lot with the planet Sirius, which is probably why I'm called here. And I have a very strong memory of my lives in Atlantis and Lemuria. And what I've been working a lot with lands, with people, with waters, with trees, with myself, with clients, has been to anchor the diamond consciousness. And the diamond consciousness in itself is the unification of the paradox, right? Like what you guys have been saying, I don't have maybe the same words, but it's really the same piece of the same puzzle that we're all co-weaving together. The more we share this information in beautiful wisdom shares like this, the more we actually can bring into deeper coherence our own inner diamond consciousness. Because the diamond consciousness, when it's anchored in our system, that's how we become these pillars of light. That's how we become each one of these Blue Lotuses, like impregnating the Nile River in the shared consciousness that will really, the Nile River is in the shape of a snake, right? And here in Guatemala, at the lake, very strong is the feathered serpent. And then in the dream time of the Aboriginals, the rainbow serpent. It's all the different prophecies melding together, and the prophecy is answered from within us. So that's what I've received. And when I sing and speak, I see how when we receive our own unique essence, and we receive by listening deeply first to ourselves, and then listening deeply to the waters within other people, and the waters of the lands and the trees and all the living beings around us, when we transmit from that place, singing and speaking, using that vibrational resonance to bring people back into the coherence of the remembrance that they are, that's when we really shift. That's the slow work. And that's the work I've been doing together with many other people who are doing this work, where we are helping people in their bodies from within recognize their own coherence, remember, right? Remember. Like each part of you is a lost family member, right? So we remember through sound, because the mind is sometimes too active. The body, the heart is ancient wisdom. And we tap into it when we go into our body. In the sound, and through sound, people feel connected to Mother Earth. You know, that's how people are being prepared gradually. I feel like sound and sound that impacts the waters of our body, sound that impacts the waters. There are many people like me. I'm not the only one who like we sing to the waters since we were children, you know. So this is the way we are going forward, which is why I really resonated with Melanie's share, because that's really what I've been shown as well. And so that felt important to presence and sound impacting the waters within and around is really my path and my purpose. And I really feel so connected to what was shared today. And I'm so glad I made it. Thank you, brother. And thank you to all my home.
Hello. And I love that you began to, we saw the beginning of you infusing some light language as you were sharing. And that was felt so deeply, especially given on the topic and really of how we are beginning to honor the waters within ourselves. Right, those secretions have a lot to do with the waters, the liquids within ourselves, and how Sister was sharing that she sings to the waters, right? It's like when we select ourselves, when I choose myself, there's going to be a totally different relationship I have with this ecosystem as well. I know a good friend of mine, she has hypersensitivity to food and drink now, which some people would say is like, oh, that sucks. But no, it's because her body, she's so attuned. She's so attuned. Her body's like, that is a no. That's it. Where some of us were not so attuned, we can go and we can abuse ourselves in different ways because we're not selecting ourselves. When you select yourselves, reverence occurs. That's how we connect to the world. That's how we connect with one another, that we identify each and every one as sacred. We revere each and every one. I mean, that's the end of war culture. I love you completely. To our Christina, Elizabeth, Brother Ken, I do have to jump off the call by 10:30. So if we could receive you, but if the invitation is for you to condense your share and transfer it in a coherent way, and to also complete your share would be so appreciative. Thank you so much. Sister Christina, the end of the glands.
Hello, beautiful brother, leader Keoni. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone for such an incredible sharing. This is so helpful and so enriched. I have a few points that I would like to share. Somebody was mentioning about the crystalline body, how to explain that, what that is, or how to go about it. I actually a couple of things I would like to mention about that. One is I feel that those of us who are going with the new earth are being already in the process of upgrading. So this has already been happening on our behalf by our cellular structure. And I think the end goal of that, where we're going to what we are calling crystalline body, is what I call solar consciousness, is where we are going. There's only light, 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 and we are going to be bathed in light and operating from that as our natural state of being. So that's, I wanted just to mention that it's so important to recognize that we are already been going through the process. So it's not going to be as shocking, as dramatic, or as radical as some of them we may perceive. It's happening on our behalf as we are going. And what I will call that we are going is again, we are being protoform of that light as we speak. Part of my personal training in the last few years has been really differentiated the self care and self nourishment. And really my inner training is being a lot about choosing, again, choosing what's best for me, choosing the methodologies on which I will enrich and calm my nervous system in my day-to-day life. This training, it was given to me through the mother, and the mother has been very insistent that I had to learn how to do this. First for me, and then for assisting later on to learn how to assist properly. I wanted to mention the to think
Oh,
the
sister,
self-care,
you're breaking up a little bit. We left off at you just said you want to mention, and then it started to break up. By the way, you guys, don't you love how she was frozen? Did you see that depiction of her? Right? It was like amazing. Oh my gosh. I think she'll likely hop back on. But let's also receive our sister Elizabeth. Elizabeth, Kihi, the end of the glands.
Whew. Kihi, thank you. Thank you, mahalo, Kihi. Aloha ma, everyone. This has been so wonderful. I wanted to share the card that my nephew gave me for Christmas this year, where he literally depicted me as Mary. And he's 8 years old. I joked about it at the time because I have this mindset where I'm 38 and I'm looking to find a husband and thinking about the children that I want to have. And this has really, really made me feel like the cataclysm will be that we thought what Mary could do was extinct. And now it's coming up again, and people all around the world will be able to achieve immaculate conception. It's the idea of we were so ingrained and so taught to really hold on to what matters, to what we love, as opposed to what's coming through for me now is that all that matters is not holding on. So it's really this, what everyone was saying, this redefinition and opportunity to rediscover love. So aloha ma, everyone. Thank you.
Oh yeah, bringing it back to what Zia was sharing too about like, right, it's time for us to, right, it's time to renew the lease, right? We need to re-authenticate ourselves again. Yeah, and what a stimulating time it can be for us to feel into that, like, wow, what it would be for like for me to re-authenticate myself. It's like major, huge, and talking about sovereignty and agency, it's also an invitation for us to relax into our own sovereignty and agency when that question is proposed. If you were to re-authenticate yourself, what's that going to look like? I love you completely. Aloha ma. Brother Ken, I'm so happy that we're going to hear from you because the suspense, brah, from ceremony to ceremony, right? And then you're not able to share. So, Brother Ken, please share with us what is moving through you.
Thank you, Keone, and thank you, everyone. So much is moving through me. My heart is beating right now. I am alive. My name is Kenneth. One way that I have come to remember who I am is the one who is born of fire. And life is born of fire. And the Hebrew name that was given to me at birth was Chayam, life. So today I am speaking on behalf of life and on behalf of the fire, as life, as fire. There's so much, and to distill it down in this moment, the mother hid her most precious and treasured jewels in the earth. The earth right here, the inner earth. The precious jewels are hid in the earth. And what I'm remembering and what I know is that each vertebrae is a crystal, and that crystal has memory. And Keii and Pandemonium and all the solar activity that's happening right now, the cosmic activity, is here to clear the distortions and illusions so that the memory that we are, who we are, fully actualized crystals, like ferns, fully actualized, fully evolved, can be expressed and we can close the gap between who we are and what we're experiencing on Earth, because Earth has the capacity to hold the most beautiful dream of the infinite, of Source. And as we are cleared of distortions and illusions through pandemonium, through solar flare and geomagnetic storms and solar activities that blow past the limits of current measurement technology, we become the central fractal pattern generators of the most beautiful fractal that has never yet been expressed in this container that we are dwelling upon, called Earth. For me personally, I'm noticing there is extraordinary challenge lately with the English language and speaking. So I'm truly like in awe, like a child. Like, it is awesome to hear everyone share with such profound and what I would describe as immaculate articulation of what to me is itself a language of distortion, the English language. And so for myself, I'm finding that I'm being brought into deeper silence and stillness and quiet, to where language is difficult. And even here, there's all these things I want to say, but it's impossible. It's actually impossible for me to translate through English. And there's, the videos where they hook up those little like electrodes to like mushrooms, and then the mushroom sings its song, the way that Earth is being translated into its song. And here we are coming into our most pure and highest order soul song, so that we can sing the most beautiful dream of the infinite into expression and dwell there. I imagine as a living liquid crystal of the most purified and highest order of plasma white light. The song is not sung in English. It is a song of sound and light. And for me, I'm being asked, as I imagine many of us are, to sing the song of sound and light, and to become and be Kihi, pandemonium, that I am the pandemonium. When I move into any space, simply by being in that space, I blow out all circuits that are artificial and synthetic through my mere presence. They do not have the capacity to conduct the electricity that this liquid crystal has been engineered, designed, and purified to conduct as a conductor of infinite intent. And so I give myself permission to blow all circuits everywhere that are artificial and synthetic and not resonant with the soul song of the infinite's most beautiful dream. And so thank you everyone for the opportunity to do my best to use language. And I have this thing that keeps coming up around, speaking various light languages and what I call ancient earth dialects. That's how I experience them. And that I can do that in person, but I can't do that online because there's some rule that you can't do that online. And it's like, fuck that. That's not resonant or true for me anymore. It's like, if I blow out the Zoom call and we all get blown off, great, like whatever. That's what needed to happen. And I'm tired of limiting and restricting myself to show up in a certain way in virtual spaces where it's like, I'm done with that. That doesn't work. So in service to that, I am now going to speak an ancient earth dialect. And I trust that I am more powerful, we are more powerful than all synthetic and artificial systems of technology. And what tones need to be shared through the zeros and ones to be heard by all of us who are nodes on Gaia will be transmitted through this artificial technology because it serves me. I don't serve it. I declare that so. This technology serves me. I do not serve it. It is in service to me. It is in service to the Great Mother. It is in service to life to use this technology to transmit the codes that are available in this moment to be transmitted. Hoyunto kia shipten teo kanta hari teo kuten teo konta ari teo kia ha teo kyo kia ha ya teo kyo ha tia hane teo koko kia ha neo kyo ha nea hea koko ya he teo kyo ha heo na tia kyo ho yo na kyo o ai ante yo ka hoyo ko ha te kyo ko na ya kia ha yo kyo entia kyo hinia kia yo kia a o yo kia a yu teo kyo yo ne e ko na yo kyo yo ne ri ka ai Heo ko ne te ya kyo re te yo re kyo ho heo ko ha ya ha yo ho te o te yo o ya he ho ta kyo ha yo to kyo ho ti ko ho yo to kyo ho yo to kyo yo ko ke te ha yo ko kya te ho yo ko to yo kya ha te ki ho yo te ki ha ya ko to ko ya ta ya te ho yo ko to yo ko he te he ya ko ne te he yo ko ne yo ko ne ya ho yo ko kene he ya kia he ya ho yo kene yo kente he yo ka yo ko he ya yo ko ya na ta ya ka yo ko he ne te yo ko yo ta ha Mahalo. Mahalo. Mahalo.
Hello. I will blow all circuits now. I will blow all circuits now. I will blow all circuits now. There's no more growth to be made. It's time to sing. That is where we have arrived as a collective. There is no more growth to be made. It's time to sing. I will blow all circuits now. I love you all completely. Melanie, Sabine, my beloveds, thank you so much. May we all continue our dance and our song with Kihi Fern. And as Brother Kenneth was sharing, there is no reason for this energy to overpower us. We are that energy. There is no more growth to be made. It's time to sing. I blow all circuits now. Aloha Mā.